Okay, we are back with Officer Dana Catoe. I'm Adam Spade, teacher here at Chapin High School, and we're sitting down with Officer Catoe to just pick his brain, go through his book, Inshallah, and just kind of get his story out there because it's a fascinating one and entertaining. Um, we're going to talk about the Iraqi Governing Council, that was the job. Chapter 2 is called The Job. This is it, is providing security for the Iraqi government, the government. But one thing that was clear immediately was your admiration of the ambassador.
Ambassador Bremer.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. If anybody needs a shout out for what went on over there, it would be him. This guy was, he was the definition of between a rock and a hard place. And he was trying to win. And he was winning. But he would have setback after setback after setback, but not of his own doing, not of his fault, just of the environment, just the situation of the different entities that were involved. There was no way he was going to ever satisfy everyone. It wasn't going to be possible. And we look at that here in this country as a different thing. So I'm the president of the United States today, right? I'm going to make a decision because I'm not going to satisfy everyone. Not everyone's going to be happy with the decision that I make. And that's okay in this country because that's the way it works. Not over there. So when I say he couldn't make everybody happy, everybody wanted to be happy and wanted to be a part of everything that was going on. No one wanted to be left out. So no one was willing to compromise on unhappiness. So it was just hard for him to do. I don't know that this guy ever slept, to be honest with you. But every time I saw him, he looked professional, well-dressed, mannerism fantastic, attitude always straight across the board. Now, there were times behind the scenes where he let it ride. I had to call over to that office a couple of times because I thought a couple of ministers were. I can remember one in particular when two of the ministers really got into it. Now, I want to tell you, when two Arabs argue, if you're standing outside looking at it, listening to it, you think they're fixing to kill each other because it's such a harsh language. It just sounds very angry. But I learned what was an argument and what was not. And in one particular case, I thought this is going to happen. These two are going to have their guards. They're going to shoot each other. And I really felt that we were at that stage. And I was told by his office that it came from him, that if they're stupid enough to kill each other, then let them do it. So, it's just... And there's been two less guys he'd had to worry about.
Just following orders.
and they were two of the ones that were always at it. But, yeah, I mean, he was just the perfect pig for that job. And he did a fantastic job. I had mounds and mounds of respect for him and what he did. And I don't think this country knows... Without him, I don't think we would be in the place that we are right now with Iraq.
When you said during Ambassador Bremer's reign, Iraq saw the formation of a new system of laws, courts, banking, free elections, and women being allowed to sit in one of the highest institutions in the land, the IGC.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, now you got women in the government. And this was all of him negotiating and working these things out to make it happen. And he wasn't just doing it at lunch. I mean, this was going on, and there was nights that they would have meetings as the council and the ministers and him, and they would be in there. It seemed like all night long. It just them arguing and him trying to come to a resolution, and he was just the right man for the job at that time.
Well, and it's the admiration and respect that you have for him absolutely comes through. So that's why I wanted to touch on that first. Next, the rest of this, we're just going to kind of run down, because it's not a long chapter. We're just going to run down just some of these people that you rattled off. And I was shocked. I didn't know this. I followed this as much as anybody, I guess, could have, but I was still shocked. I didn't realize the IGC was 25 members, 3 of whom were women. And I had no idea that they rotated who ran the country every month.
Every month was a new president. Every single month, a new president came about.
A month? What can you do in a month?
Well, I don't think that nobody was trying to rewrite policy. There was a figurehead.
It was to show representation.
Somebody was there. So you have these 25 different people coming together, out of which 12 were going to end up being a president, right? So out of these 12, you had all these different, they came from everywhere. They came from different backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, different upbringings, different regions, different everything. And they're trying to make it all come together. Now, the bigger part of that was me trying to figure it out. And that was tough because I didn't understand it. So here in this country, like I said before, we have the 3 parties that we talk about the most. Republicans, Democrats, Independent. Boom. I mean, here's all of this. I don't know what's liberal. And then when I found out what liberal was, well, liberal there does not mean what liberal means here.
I can't imagine it does.
Conservative there does not mean what conservative means here, right? And it gets deep. Liberal there means they may allow some women to work. Conservative there means there's no women going to work here at all. They're not going to have a say-so whatsoever. And there were people in the government, that's what they wanted. You know, hey, wait a minute. Women don't need to be involved in this. Well, me, look, you know, who was I to say, well, yeah, they do. That wasn't my world.
Right.
It was Bremer's world.
Oof.
Right? He had to navigate and negotiate that. What I had to do was make sure that I kind of played a delicate game and a balance to make sure I didn't piss somebody off so much so that they were going to start tricking me. Because they had the ability to do it, right? It was hard telling these guys, all right, I got to treat you kind of like royalty because you're the government. In my perception, if I had to put things into place, you had one guy a month that was the president that wanted to be treated like a president. The rest of them wanted to be treated like a senator. You know, but they wanted that privilege. I wanted to be able to give them that privilege because it was their government. They were dependent on me to make sure that things ran that way and that smooth. Excuse me. But at the same time, it was hard for me to trust them because each one of them had the ability to stab the other one in the back, one way or the other. Even into the point of maybe if I could take this guy out, I'll get my way. So those people assassinating each other was not out of the realm of possibility. Not at all. Not even close. That was something else I had to keep in mind. And it was just kind of tough trying to make all that balance together and trying to learn all that at the same time.
I imagine.
And I'm not sure I ever really did. I got to know them on personal levels as best as I could. Once I got to know them on personal levels as best I could, I could start to understand them in a different way. Not necessarily by their political or religious, but just the way they carried themselves, the way they talked to people. That I would start to understand, okay, this guy over here, he cannot stand a female having any say-so whatsoever. This guy over here, he loves everybody, right? You got to know their personalities, and their personalities told their politics. I think that's true with us.
Sure.
You know, I don't think anybody could spend a week with me and not go, this guy's a Republican. There's just no way around it, right? And I can do that with almost anybody. I can spot right away. Well, I know where this person stands politically. Not that I'm against it. Not that it bothers me either way. But I began to understand their politics, their religious beliefs, by getting to know their personalities. Some of them were absolutely hilarious. They were great to be around.
Really?
They were fun to be around. And some of them I was even scared to be around.
Oof.
Because some of them didn't like me as an American. They didn't like the fact that, hey, there's an American on this compound. A lot of them had strong ties with Iran, especially your upper-level Shia guys. Some of them had exiled to Iran, came from Iran. So
You even said there was one who was a part of Hezbollah.
yeah. But now, listen, not that Hezbollah.
This is the Iraqi Hezbollah.
There's Hezbollah. There's Hezbollah and there's Hezbollah. And there's a difference. So in there, it's Hezbollah, which has nothing to do with the Hezbollah that comes out of Lebanon.
Really?
So there you go. Now, what was the first thing I thought?
They're the same.
They're the same. Totally different. Totally different organization, totally different people. Hezbollah is in Lebanon. Hezbollah is bombing Israel. Hezbollah ain't got anything to do with that whatsoever. So even one letter changes everything over there. I didn't know this. So these are things that I'm learning as I move along.
You mentioned the one who was the one feeding information to the UK and the US and convinced both sides that
Chalabi.
Saddam had his WMDs.
Ahmed Chalabi. He was an absolute arrogant ass. He thought he ran the world. He really did. Ended up stabbing him because of his arrogance. His arrogance really got him. He did convince us. He's the reason we went to war. He convinced everybody it was WMD there, and it wasn't. He was had his hands in everything. That guy was dirty. Even my translator said to me, and I think I say this later on, in talking to Safe, he said, Catoe, what do you call this thing in the United States that crawls on its belly? I said, a snake? He said, this guy. Oof. This guy is a snake.
Wow.
Yeah. So now, listen. But I had to go, is he telling me this because it's true? Or is he telling me this because he don't want me to like this guy, right? I had nobody I could trust to try to form my own opinions.
Right.
You know, I wanted to believe maybe he's right. You know, he's been living here his whole life. Maybe he knows who these people are. Then again, maybe not. Maybe this is the guy, and he just don't want me to. He wants me to not like him. So it was kind of tough trying to learn who I could trust and who I couldn't, even when nobody over there talked good about each other. I mean, every party had a problem with the other party in some way, shape, or form. So depending on who you talk to, they would always tell you, well, this person over here, he shouldn't be in charge of this or shouldn't be in charge of that, because they were breaking things down. You had interior ministers who were in charge of law. You had oil ministers who were in charge of oil. You had all these different types of ministers in charge of different things. You had the Ba'ath party, the DeBathist party. You had a lot of things going on over there that there was conflict between everybody within this government. So you had those 12 guys, and they all had their staff or their council, which would be like their congressmen or so on and so forth. And then those guys had their staff, which are like the people that worked in the office or the interns or whatever you might want to call them. So I had tons and tons of Iraqi people. So as you could tell, it's much easier getting my information from the lowest level than it was the highest. The highest level is going to tell me what they want me to know. I used to say when I was in the Marine Corps, Lance Corporal in the Marine Corps is an E3. He's not the lowest rank, which is a private. He's not a non-commissioned officer, which would be a corporal, but he is the highest of the lowest. And all his buddies work in an office somewhere, right? So when people go, well, the colonel plans on doing this in a couple of weeks, this and that. Really, you think colonel would do that? Blah, blah, blah. These rumors are out there. I'd always say, go ask the damn Lance Corporal. And he'd be like, yep. Because his buddy who does the paperwork up there is listening to everything.
Oh, that's true.
And he's like, yeah, man, here we're going here next week. We're doing that. We get your information from the lowest level. 9 times out of 10 is true. Because they're listening to everything that's going on in there. So I kept those guys close to me all the time. You know, paper pushers, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. So I'd get my information from the government, inner government, from their lowest level workers, their office workers. And I'd get my information on what was going on in the street from the kids.
Really?
From the children, yeah. I'll talk about that as we go forward, too.
So
yeah.
Was there any tension when you saw your first Kurdish acting president? Was that as big a deal as it seems like it should have been?
It was. When you start to talk about the Kurds, when the British came along, and I don't know if I've talked about this before, may have. When the British came along and split the Kurds up, or broke up that side of the world, they kind of forgot about the Kurds. And the Kurds are about 4.8 million people. They're the largest population of people in the world that they don't have a country to call their own. They were fighting Saddam all the time. That's where the Peshmerga come from. And the Peshmerga is the fighting force up in Kurdistan. And they call themselves Kurdistan. They consider themselves their own country. Although they're not autonomous, they are part of Iraq. They have their own flag. So, yes, that caused a lot of tension. And that place was split like half in two between two guys, Talibani and Barzani. Both of them strong. Kind of remind me of a mob thing back here in New York, right? One guy runs one side, one guy runs the other. Or one's Irish and one's not. So those two guys kind of had that region in their own grip. One held one side, one held the other, and they were kind of enemies. Now they had to come together if they wanted to keep Kurdistan, and they were trying to break Kurdistan off as its own country. That's what they wanted. Iraq to be its country, Kurdistan be its own country. And yes, that was starting to cause a lot of problems and a lot of tension. Because Turkey is not big-time friends with the Kurdish people either. They've kind of been at war with them on their border for a very long time, too. That's a whole different game. Same thing on the Iranian side. So they don't really have a lot of friends surrounding them. And they're landlocked. So, but they own all the oil.
Really?
Mosul, all up in that area, yeah.
That's all under Kurdish control?
Yeah, most of that is under Kurdish control.
Oh.
Yeah, so a lot of conflict here now. When you start throwing oil and money in it, yeah. You start throwing a whole different ballgame. So, yeah, a lot of tension. Kurds wanted to break off on their own. Even today, you can get on the internet and look all this up. They have their own flag up there. Kurdistan got their own airport, got everything, and it is an absolutely fantastic area of Iraq.
Really?
People love Americans.
Oh.
Love Americans. Saddam gassed 5,000 of them, right?
Yeah. Men,
women, and children.
Which was a big reason why people thought, oh, they're using chemical weapons. They must have.
Exactly. But every year on the day that happened, they stop. Everybody in Kurdistan stops. I still call it Kurdistan.
I was going to say, you did.
Well, I do. I still call it Kurdistan. Spent a good bit of time up there. So they stop on the hour and they ring these bells. And I mean, nobody moves. Nobody moves. You stand completely still. They still honor those dead every year on that day when that happened. Yeah.
Wow.
So you talk about hating Saddam. They hated Saddam.
How many people make up the Kurdish population?
4.8 million.
Really?
Yeah, but now that's spread. You have Kurds in Syria, you have Kurds in Turkey, you have some Kurds in Iran. So that region area right there is about 4.8 million Kurds. Yeah. Don't have a country to call their own.
All right. Well, we'll finish this chapter because it does kind of just run through these 12 people and your thoughts on them. So we'll end it by creating a contrast between Salim, did I say that right?
Izzadin Salim.
And Ghazi. One of them, you said an entire chapter of his book is dedicated to the thoughts and beliefs that brought an end to him. And then the other one, you said, from a personal standpoint, I found this man incredible. He was personable, funny, and respected without demanding it, and everybody seemed to like him. Seems to be a pretty stark contrast between those two.
A big contrast between the two. And Sheikh Ghazi was a great guy. And he dressed like a sheikh, acted like a sheikh, was funny, was personable, was just a great all-around guy. And I liked being around him when I talked to him. He was always joking. He was always funny. He was really he was a good guy. Izzadin Salim was a good man in the respect of I don't believe he would ever harm anyone, but he was naive to what was going on. He certainly, as Iraq started to fall apart and Al-Qaeda had a big hole there and the jobs went away and the army went away and the money went away and the food started going away, Iraqis started joining in just to help their families survive. Well, a lot of these people in the government did not believe that Iraqis would kill Iraqis, and he was one of them.
You said that he placed a lot of the blame on people outside of Iraq.
Yes, he did. He believed that everybody that was doing it came from Syria, came from Turkey, came from Saudi Arabia. He wasn't wrong.
So when you said outside of Iraq, you didn't mean necessarily the Americans or the British.
No, he's talking about the terrorist itself.
Oh.
He's talking about Al-Qaeda itself. What Al-Qaeda was made up of were not Iraqi people. He would not believe that Iraqi people would kill Iraqi people. And like I said, he wasn't necessarily wrong until he wasn't. When things started falling apart, the only way some of these Iraqis could feed their families was to join in, right? And some of these people that joined in were working within the green zone. Now you have to think about that as a whole too. So we're vetting all these people, letting them come in, working, washing dishes, doing this, doing that. They're supposedly vetted by the government. I even asked Ronnie that. How there's a bunch of Iraqis in here when we went to eat that day. How did they get in here? This is a green zone. He said, they've been vetted. They've been vetted by the government. And I'm like, okay, all right. I'm sure they're not going home and telling everybody what's going on in the green zone, right? Well, of course they were. Spies over there were a dime a dozen. And our people, our Americans over there, have very loose lips at times. And you'll see that as the book goes forward too. But learning to deal with this government and deal with who they were, it was much easier. The bottom line was to understand their personality than to understand their politics. Because I was never going to understand their politics. I wasn't. I was never going to understand their religion. I don't think being over there, and you'll see this as we go forward too, especially when other people start to come into my life and get involved. My theological mind came alive in Iraq.
Really?
Huge. Came alive in Iraq. Not just from a Christian standpoint, just from a standpoint of world religion, world theology, and things started to make more sense to me the more confusing they got.
Well, and you mentioned that there was somebody in the government who could trace their ancestry to the Old Testament.
All the way back to Nebuchadnezzar, back to the Babylonian. The Babylonian gardens are still there hanging. I mean, they're not hanging, but they're still there, a lot of them. A lot of it was torn down and taken back to a British museum, but a lot of the original walls still stand right there at Babylonia.
So that makes complete sense what you were saying about how the theological part of you came alive, because you're immersed. You're immersed in stuff you've read about since you were a kid, and there it is, and you're standing next to people who can trace their ancestry to Nebuchadnezzar, and these people who everything they do every single day revolves around all of that.
Yeah, and it became huge, and you know, here you'll find later as we move forward, you know, at that point I understood what we had in our country. I understood the Christianity, but I did not understand Orthodox Christianity, Eastern Orthodox Christianity. I picked that up there too. That's when I started to understand, wait a minute, then the West broke, Catholics didn't start all this? Hold on, let's see. You know, I had to go back and look at that. Protestant Reformation, had to start to look at all of that. You know, when I joined the Marine Corps and got ready to do my dog tags, they're asking everybody, you know, what are you this? What? I stepped up and the guy goes, you Catholic or Protestant? I said, neither one. He said, okay. Muslim? No. So atheist? No. I didn't know what a Protestant was. I didn't know what a Protestant was. I'm Southern Baptist. That's what I am. I didn't know what a Protestant was. That made no sense to me. I don't know if I missed it in school. Sure did. But I didn't know what a Protestant was. So I said, I'm Southern Baptist. This guy put SOBAP, period, on my dog tags.
Really?
Yes, he did. I was so adamant about it. That's what
You might be the only one who's had
I,
that put it.
I might have been. But I didn't understand that, you know. So,
Well, to be fair, the only reason I know is because on base in Japan, there was two services.
you're right.
There was Catholic Mass and there was Protestant.
That's
That's
correct.
the only reason I know.
But when you're raised in a Southern Baptist town where there's a church on every street corner, you Baptist.
Yep.
That's all I knew. Or I think we had a Methodist and a Presbyterian. Those people were weird. and that's just, you know, you growing up, that's just what, you don't go down there. You know, I had no idea. So all of this kind of opened my mind up to where I actually started studying theology in a big way, right?
And it's history there. Like when you're there, it's not just theology. It is actual history.
And it wraps around it. It does, as it goes. When you start taking the Bible and history, and you put history on one pole and the Bible on another, they just kind of wrap around each other. If you take what some people consider the mythological piece of the Bible's out, of the Old Testament, the history is the same. Mm-hmm. It wraps the same. So a lot of it just came full circle with me, and I started to understand a lot of things. I will tell you this, I'll blow everybody's mind on this podcast right now. I am a Catholic today.
Really?
Yes. Fully converted Catholic today. I would be Eastern Orthodox if it wasn't so ethnic, because I really like the structure and I like the way it's laid out. But to take your family and try to immerse them into that when it's so ethnic and so old that it has not changed in 2,000 years, where I think the Catholic Church kind of, at least went forward a little bit where people could keep up and understand what was happening. I would probably be full blown Eastern Orthodox right now.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I had a journey. I've been on a journey. I've been on a crazy journey. This book is a crazy journey.
Man, we are peeling back the layers of Dana Catoe.
And I really don't break into the theology side of it in this book that much. I mean, we'll talk about the religious things and some of the differences and so on and so forth. And you'll see that later on, I'll run into a guy who's pretty spiritual Catholic guy. I was a spiritual dude too. And I think that surprises people a lot. That I am spiritual because of the way I carry myself and carry on a lot of the times. But Marines are spiritual people. People who deal in that environment over there, you have to be spiritual. You've got to have something to hold on to, or you don't have anything to hold on to, right? So you knowing that the next thing that falls from the sky, it might be your moment. You better have another plan in place. So I've been on quite a ride, and as we peel back the layers, I think you'll start to see that and enjoy that a little bit, or maybe not.
We're only in chapter 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of chapter 3. We'll start with the Gurkha next time, where the first sentence of the entire chapter is "Better to die than be a coward."
That's their motto.
That's it. Okay. This is chapter 3, learning about the Iraqi Government Council.
Yep.
With learning a lot about Dana Catoe.
Like I said, y'all can hit that button on YouTube, subscribe, and we'll keep moving forward.
And call them out on more
call me out
inaccuracies confusing the Army and the Navy.
Call me out when you see me wrong. I will come in here and correct myself. Listen, my memory is, we're talking 25 years. And when it comes to Marine Corps total, we're talking, oh my God, 40 years ago when I went in. So
well, just that one day, the one day, first day there. That's
one
a lot
day.
to remember.
Yeah, it was. So
all right. Well, Officer Dana Catoe, thank you. That wraps it up for this chapter.
Thank you.